I just finished watching the live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender twice, and after both viewings, I've come to the conclusion that it's okay. Contrary to the rants found online, I don't think the show is terrible, it's just not that good. What we were given by Netflix is a flat, generic copy of the animated show. All the uniqueness and magic of the original series was washed away by the adaptation's wooden dialogue and shallow depictions of key characters. And what's sad to me is that the one hit with the brunt of this dulling is the lead hero himself, Aang. They may look the same, they may have the same name, but Netflix's Aang is a completely different character. At the very least, it's a sad copy of the original. And this isn't an actor problem. I think Gordon Cormier was a great casting choice, and he did the best with what he was given. This is primarily a writing problem. The show doesn't understand Aang. The adaptation manages to capture only one facet of Aang's character, his commitment to do what is right. From the get-go, Aang is pretty eager to fulfill his destiny as the Avatar. The showrunner of the live-action adaptation said that Aang will no longer go on detours in his adventure, and that from the beginning will be dead set in saving the Northern Water Tribe. This is a critical mistake. The tension between the fun of childhood and his responsibility as the Avatar is an integral part of Aang's character arc. The world of Avatar has been ravaged by war for a century. The detours in the original series shows us how Aang brings joy and life in a world oppressed by the Fire Nation, but at the same time, it reveals Aang's tendency to distract himself from responsibility. The original series was about Aang learning to fulfill his duty as the Avatar. The adaptation's decision to make him eagerly jump into this role removes crucial growth for his character, making him stagnant. What we don't see enough in the adaptation is Aang having fun, being a kid. In the animated series, the first thing Aang wants to do when he wakes up from the iceberg is go penguin sledding. He teaches the children of the Southern Water Tribe to be kids again. He plays games with them. He makes them laugh. This is how he helps heal the world. The adaptation tries to convey that Aang is a fun-loving kid, but fails in doing so. Check out this scene from the first episode. Aang just learned from Monkey Yatso that he's the Avatar, and now he's venting to Appa about this revelation.
He said, I need to remember who I am. But I know who I am. I like to play airball and eat banana cakes and goof off with my friends. That's who I am. Not someone who can stop the Fire Nation. Not someone who can stop a war.
This moment feels so contrived and lazy. It felt like fan fiction. Here's a general writing rule. Show, don't tell. Instead of making Aang tell us about who he is and how he likes to have fun, show us him doing these things. Here's how I would introduce Aang. The opening scene could be him playing airball with another kid. There's a huge crowd around them, many of them being Aang's friends. In this scene, Aang is just owning this dude. He's scoring all the points, blocking all the strikes. Eventually, he notices that his opponent is getting upset, so Aang starts messing up on purpose. He misses his shots and lets the other guy score. By the end of the game, his opponent wins. Aang congratulates him, telling him that it was a close match. After the game, all the monk kids hang out, eating their treats up above the rooftops of the temple. Down below, you hear Monkey Gyatso call out Aang's name. Aang glides down. They embrace, crack a joke, and then Gyatso tells Aang he has to continue his avatar training with the elders. Aang asks Gyatso if he can wait because him and his friends are about to start an air scooter race. Gyatso apologizes but tells Aang that they're already late and the elders are waiting for him now. Aang reluctantly goes with Gyatso. The scene ends with Aang looking up and seeing his friends all waving goodbye. I feel like a scene like this would show you so much about who Aang is. From this opening, we know he's a gifted bender. He's competitive, but he values other people's feelings to the point where he'd rather lose a match than make someone upset. It also gives hints to how Aang doesn't want to stand out too much. Being gifted makes him feel separate from others. This kid is a social butterfly. He loves to go out and have fun with his friends. His interaction with Gyatso shows us a bit of their close relationship and how being the avatar is a burden to Aang. The scene ending with his friends waving goodbye also foreshadows Aang's destiny. It's as if his past life is bidding him farewell as he embarks down his journey of becoming the avatar. See, I want a scene like this rather than Aang telling the audience through Appa what kind of person he is. It was really upsetting seeing how lazy they were in introducing Aang on screen. Another mischaracterization by Netflix is how this Aang cares more about being the Avatar than supporting his friends. Okay, sure, in the adaptation, Aang has fought by his friend's side and even rescued them from being trapped in the spirit world, but his willingness to sacrifice his friendships and prioritize his role as the Avatar cuts against his character. The biggest example of this was when Katara informs Aang that women in the Northern Water Tribe are forbidden to engage in waterbending combat, and that she's been refused by Master Pakku in helping defend the tribe against the Fire Nation's incoming siege. As Katara was venting all of this to Aang, you know what he said?
Maybe we should listen to them. Maybe it's better if you didn't fight. These people need the Avatar, and I can't be the Avatar with you around.
When I heard this, my jaw was on the floor. This was the nail in the coffin. It solidified for me that this Aang is a complete departure from his animated counterpart. Aang would never, ever say this to Katara. And the fact that he wanted to intervene and stop Katara during her fight with Master Pakku is unacceptable. I could not believe it. Just compare this to how Aang responds in the animated show.
But our tribe has customs, rules.
Well, your rules stink.
Yeah, they're not fair. If you won't teach Katara, then
Then what?
I won't learn from you.
You can't knock me down.
Go, Katara!
Now, here's the crazy thing. Why is it in this episode that Sokka acts more like Aang and Aang acts more like Sokka? In the scene when Katara was preparing to fight Master Pakku, it's Sokka that encourages Katara to be herself and take Pakku down.
It doesn't matter what other people think. The point is, I get to decide. Just like you get to decide who you are, not Pakku or anyone else.
Aang should be the one doing this, not Sokka. Wouldn't it make more sense for Sokka to be the one telling Katara to comply with Master Pakku and Northern Water Tribe customs? It would not only be in line with his chauvinistic nature, but also his real desire to protect his sister. Look, I know some of you listening may disagree with my criticism and be like,
"You're being unfair. Aang only said that to Katara because he was protecting her. If you look at Book 3, Episode 1 of the animated series, he did the same exact thing."
I've always known that I would have to face the Fire Lord, but now I know I need to do it alone.
Aang.
Katara, please. Just go. Please.
Okay, yeah, true, but this was said after nearly dying by the hand of Azula. After 2 seasons of journeying with his friends, the weight of failing and leaving the world a second time is what drove Aang to fly off in rage and regret. This moment felt earned. And even after this event, Aang still remained true to who he is. Early on in Book 3, Aang goes back to doing what he does best, having fun. He enrolls at a Fire Nation school and literally throws a secret dance party for the children who've been indoctrinated by Fire Nation propaganda. To make an even more direct comparison, I want to bring our attention to the Painted Lady episode. In it, we learn that a village has been polluted by a Fire Nation factory, and in order to save the people in the village, Katara lies to the gang and stalls their travel plans. When Aang finds out Katara had been lying, instead of scolding her, he immediately wants to help her. He even praises Katara as a hero.
I can't believe you lied to everyone so you could help these people.
I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have.
No, I think it's great. You're like a secret hero.
It's Sokka that berates Katara, but even then, by the end of the episode, Sokka eventually decides to help Katara save the village. Look, I understand that this series is an adaptation, not a one-to-one recreation, and that's a good thing. I wouldn't even want a one-to-one recreation. You could argue that Netflix needed to change Aang, to mold him into a hero that fits with the darker tone and grounded setting of this new series. But I think this is a cop-out answer. In an adaptation, there's a fine line between changing and warping. Changing is adding your own spin to a character or world while still respecting its foundations. Warping is making a change to these elements while disregarding or forgetting the foundations that built them. And look, I'm all for new ideas being introduced into the show, as long as these ideas honor the spirit of Avatar's world and and characters. So, what are some actual ways that Netflix can reintroduce Aang in Book 2? If I'm being honest, I think this is going to be pretty difficult to do. Changing Aang from Book 1 to Book 2 may be jarring and feel like total whiplash for the audience, since his characterization has already been established. But I guess we can start with small things. Make him laugh more, let him crack more jokes, make him eager to show Katara and Sokka all the fun things they can do while traveling. What I imagine is that he'll behave like how he did in the animated series, but it'll be more subdued. Most of all, I want Book 2 to drive home the idea that the world doesn't just need the Avatar, they need Aang. Besides Boomy, Aang knows what the world was like before the Fire Nation attacked, and it's this perspective that makes him needed. Wherever he goes, the only thing people ever think or talk about is war. These places have been oppressed for so long that they've forgotten who they are as a people and what they're fighting for. Aang's interactions with the places he visits could be modeled after the headband episode in the original series. That's the episode where Aang throws a secret dance party for the Fire Nation students. In the live action, he can do something similar. As a figure of the past, Aang will remind people who they are and will encourage them to celebrate it, showing them customs and traditions that have long been forgotten or ignored. This will inevitably bring conflict. Many will find Aang's methods of helping as just being a distraction. I'm sure Sokka will be among those who disagree with Aang, and this is great because it allows Sokka to learn and grow. But it also offers moments for Katara or Aang to explain why what they're doing is so important. People have been living in fear for a long time. The Fire Nation has not only conquered territories, but has imprisoned the minds and hearts of the people living there. Aang gives others the courage to laugh and be happy in the midst of war, teaching everyone that an uncrushed spirit is a crucial step towards freedom. But yeah, something like this, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I do agree that it's easier to complain than it is to find a solution. But in order to come up with a solution, people need to be aware that there are problems to begin with. At the time of recording this video, Avatar is the #1 show in the world with over 20 million viewers. But I don't want the show to just strive for commercial success. I want it to reach the heights of storytelling that the original animated show accomplished. I want this adaptation to succeed because I love this world and I love these characters. And no disrespect, I'm not one of these fans that only started watching the show during the pandemic or after seeing it on Tumblr or Instagram. I'm OG. I remember in 2005 watching Pick-Boy on Nickelodeon bending the VHS tape that held the first 2 episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender during the show's premiere. Yeah, I'm that old. I was excited when Legend of Korra came out, and to this day think the show is underrated. I've cosplayed as the characters, I've even met the Fire Prince himself. I am an Avatar veteran, which is the reason why I'm so passionate about my criticisms. What gives me hope for the future of this series is how it seems like those working in the show are listening. YouTuber Sword and Pen Reflections commented on how eager the cast and crew were to listen to the feedback of those present during the show's premiere. The actor for Iroh, who by the way nailed his role, had like a 10-minute conversation with Reflections about not mincing her words when reviewing the show, to be honest. So as a fan, this is my honest take, raw and incomplete. In this series, Monkey Yatso tells Aang to always remember who he is. I urge Netflix to do the same. So what'd you guys think of the live action series? Do you agree with my criticisms? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, it helps support the channel. Subscribe and hit that bell icon if you want to see more videos like these. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, peace out.